Okay, we will go ahead and call this meeting to order of the Beaches, Parks and Recreation Commission on Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. The time is 6 p.m. I would like to start with Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alyssa.
Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will do roll call. Commissioner Garcia. Present. Commissioner Grace.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson.
Present.
Commissioner Kahn.
Present.
Commissioner Queskin.
Present.
Commissioner McCann.
Present.
Commissioner Weinstein.
Present.
Okay, with that, we will move on to item number 1, which is the nomination of a new chair and vice chair for the Beaches, Parks and Recreation Commission, and we do have a report by the city attorney this evening.
Thank you, Samantha. Good evening, Commissioners. Elizabeth Mitchell, I'm the City Attorney for the City of San Clemente.
Could you up your mic a little, maybe?
How about that? A little better, maybe up the volume.
There we go.
Is that better? Okay. All right. I can speak louder. Go ahead and interrupt me. I will take questions as well. I thought what I would do for this item is just give you a little brief refresher on what the Brown Act is, and then we'll get into the item with respect to the particular issue at hand. There's a lot of parts to the Brown Act. It's a lot. But the one I wanted to talk to you today about is what is a meeting. And there are a bunch of exceptions to what a meeting is, and there are a bunch of nuances to it. So don't be, surprised if you don't always know the answer. That's okay. That's what staff and myself are here for if you ever have a question. So the purpose of the Brown Act is one of the sunshine laws in the state of California, and it's so that the public gets to see what we as government do, and that nothing happens behind closed doors. So one component of that is the meetings have to be in public, where the public is present to see that, and that people aren't prohibited from attending the meeting. So you can't have a meeting where people are excluded, for example. So I've broken up the government code section that says what a meeting is into these bullet points, and each one of them has exceptions, so don't take this as, it's going to be the rule all the time. The one that I like to use as an example now, there was a recent change in law in 2019. It used to be the case that it always took a majority of the body, so here you have 7, that would be 4. So in the past, it could be any 3 of you could meet on a topic in secret, discuss it, decide how you're going to vote, and that would not violate the Brown Act. Now is that there's an exception even to the majority rule requirement, and that happens on social media. So even one response on social media by any one of you is a Brown Act violation, and it doesn't matter if there was an intent, it doesn't matter if any of the rest of you saw it, it's a bright line rule. So the basic rule is that all city commissions, boards, and committees, the city council has to meet in public, and it has to be on agenda items, right? We have an agenda, we only talk about the things on the agenda. When you start going off agenda, Samantha says, hey, that's not on the agenda. It's not because she particularly likes to keep to the agenda, although she does probably. It's because the Brown Act requires it. So what is a meeting? It's any gathering of a majority with that footnote. At the same time and location also, there's a big footnote on that one, to hear, discuss, deliberate, or take action upon any item that's within your subject matter jurisdiction. So for commissions and committees, that last part is a lot easier than for the city council, right? Here, you guys are beaches, parks, and recreation. If all of you wanted to get together and talk about public safety, You could. That's not going to violate the Brown Act. However, if all of you got together, I don't know, at Starbucks, and we're talking like this, and a member of the public walks by and sees you, they would have no way to know that you were talking about e-bike safety, which is not part of your work plan for the year. And they might conclude there's something going on down there. And so public perception is really important because if the people don't have confidence in what we do, what are we here for, right? So I ask you to think also about how it looks to the outside. And so even if you're following the technical aspects of the law, we do ask to consider, you're here for public service because my experience is that the people who volunteer and the people who are in public service really want to serve and help, and it's kind of counterproductive to have people, throwing false aspersions at you about what you may or may not have done, right? So a little bit about the same time and location. We're going to have go through some examples about that in a minute. So this is the code section for you. I've highlighted one of the important phrases here, of any kind. That means there's really not a way to get around the rule. It used to be, back before the internet. I had partners who had only sent things by fax machines, right? Mm-hmm. And then email comes along, and people thought I had to be like, okay, email counts as a communication. It's not just paper, right? It's not just a fax machine. It's any kind of communication. So if you're looking for a way to get around it, you're approaching it from the wrong way, right? It's an overly inclusive law as opposed to a limited law. And then one of the other things that I think people get hung up a little bit about on a meeting is that discussion is a very broad term defined in the law. And think about it as, even if you don't say anything, if you're all receiving information, the public should be receiving it at the same time. And there are some exceptions and nuances for that, for individual contexts, but it's a good rule of thumb to think of it more broadly and to be cautious instead of being narrow. Because you're not going to get in trouble for being too cautious. So here's one of the exceptions to the same time, place, and location requirement. It's called a hub and spoke meeting. And so I like to use the example, which doesn't come before this commission, but it's an easy example, I think, for people to understand, is when you have a developer who wants to build a project and say they are going to have the project reviewed by the Planning Commission. I haven't heard of this happening a lot in this city, but it does happen in other jurisdictions where the developer will come and lobby each one of the planning commissioners separately and meet with one and meet with the other and meet with the other, right? So each of the commissioners in that is a hub, is a spoke, and the developer is the hub. So you could technically not have a Brown Act violation in that situation if in every single contact the commission or committee member just listened and didn't say anything or indicate in any way what they thought on the matter. So there's nothing that prohibits that. I like to tell people you're not required to meet with anybody in the public. You can politely refuse, but you can also say yes. Just recognize that listening is good, saying opinions is not. And the reason is because if you told the developer in my scenario, I'm for your project, and then they go meet with your fellow planning commissioner and say, well, Commissioner A is in favor of the project. We still don't have a Brown Act violation yet because we have two members who know, but you don't control what the other person says. So nothing stops them from going to each one and creating a majority, and then there's a violation of the law that you had no intent to violate, and you had no control over what was actually the person in the middle doing that violation, right? And then the other example of not in the time, place, and location is the daisy chain. This is like a game of telephone. Remember when you were a kid, and so-and-so says to so-and-so? So if you went down the line and each committee member spoke to one another. So it's just a good rule of thumb to keep your opinions to yourself about things that are within your subject matter jurisdiction. So anything that might come before you, beaches, parks, recreation, and to not share that with your fellow commissioners except during a meeting. But if you have questions, that's what staff is here for, right? Ask Samantha. There's also nothing wrong with talking to one of your fellow commissioners if the commission has that level of trust where you could have, one. But it's always better to be cautious and just not talk about items. If you do have a matter that comes up, and you did talk about it, you might have to make disclosures. And that's another topic altogether. So I already went over email. So what are the ramifications of having a Brown Act violation committed? Well, a cure and correct letter could be sent, and that's actually why we were here today. Staff received 2 complaints of alleged Brown Act violations in the same meeting. One was a formal letter that was filed in as part of your agenda materials, and the other was a verbal complaint. Before I get into more of that, I want to go through the other ramifications. You could have a civil action, you could have a criminal action. There are costs and attorney's fees involved, there could be penalties, and it is a misdemeanor. And all of us as public officials have taken an oath of office to uphold the law. So even if there's no damages, there's a value both in upholding the law and in instilling confidence in our public that we go above and beyond. So with the particular allegation that is presented to the commission, it would be not really possible to determine whether it occurred, because both the state and the federal constitution have a provision that allows you to not admit when you have committed a crime. And so if I had conducted an investigation and interviewed each of you individually about what would you say to this allegation, you could all plead the fifth. So why do that, right? So the recommendation is to not form an opinion about whether a violation occurred, but just to do a do-over, which is what the Brown Act actually has as a remedy in 2 different manners. The cure and correct letter is designed to allow a potential plaintiff to tell an agency, look, you did this wrong, I want you to do it over again before a lawsuit is filed. But even if the agency refuses to do it over and a lawsuit is filed, that's the judge's remedy anyway, is the judge tells the agency, like in our developer scenario, that project was approved, but it was approved based on a Brown Act violation, so you have to go back and do it again. And so you just do it again. So that's the recommendation, is to not cast aspersions, not cast blame, but just to do it again. So you are free to select the same chair and vice chair that you did at the last meeting, or you are free to select new ones. But my recommendation is just to do the vote over again. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, so what kind of triggered this was at the previous meeting, there was an instruction to postpone the vote for a chairman. And it wasn't really clear, well, we were basically given a choice to vote whether to do that or not. Now my question to you is that once that discussion, once that is in a public record, matter of public record, that there is a concern, right? What's the response? I mean, what's the situation? In other words, that sort of raised an issue in a public hearing, right, as opposed to just some sort of idle speculation which we wouldn't pay any attention to. So, without getting into a lot of detail, why was that recommendation made, which then triggered kind of a concern? Not necessarily an allegation, but a concern.
So it's the same thing as having a meeting right now. Both staff and myself make recommendations to the commission. We make recommendations to the city council. You can choose to not follow them. It's called declining advice of counsel, right? So that's what I'm asking you to do today. That's what staff asked you to do at the last meeting, was to have a do-over in advance, which means postponing it to another meeting and having it occur again on a future agenda. And here we are at a future agenda.
As a part of this process, is there any discovery or due diligence? I mean, once something like this is triggered, I mean, what's the end game here? I mean, I understand the revote, okay, it's not a problem. But clearly there was a concern by either the city attorney or the city manager or the staff that there was an issue, which they then made a public declaration of. So what was expected? Was there any adjudication of this, or was it just basically we have a concern, and if there's evidence of a concern, whether or not it occurred or not, we, on the part of being diligent, we will redo the action. Is that correct?
So we received one report before the meeting started of a Brown Act violation. And then after the meeting, we received a second report of a similar Brown Act violation. So it's always best to not, to try to fix that before it's announced in public. And so staff's recommendation, which I fully support, was to ask for the item to be continued without saying why. Right? But once you have a formal complaint, then it needs to go through a formal process, which it did. So I already explained to you why I chose not to conduct a formal investigation, because the result would have been the same. Had we had members admitting wrongdoing, or had we had everyone deny it, I would have been before you saying the same thing. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you for the wonderful presentation, the city attorney. The letter that I saw from Commissioner Queskin, thank you for submitting that. I take any allegation extremely serious. But I was kind of confused because when someone makes a complaint like that, there wasn't a complaint against a certain individual, and it didn't appear to have any evidence. Was there any evidence in that complaint?
So you just have the verbal reports from two people, right? So verbal commentary is evidence of a sort, right? It's not like we're in a court of law. When even in our developer scenario, for example, we call it public testimony. When we have a public hearing, the mayor bangs the gavel, or the planning commissioner chair bangs the gavel. You have people come up. We call it testimony, but they haven't sworn an oath. Right? So it's informal.
So specifically, was there any evidence in Commissioner Queskin's letter or complaint? I didn't see any evidence. Was there any evidence?
We had two verbal reports of Brown Act alleged violations.
But not in the actual letter, the complaint letter.
So, no.
So there's no evidence. It was just.
Well, you have the letter.
Yeah. I didn't see any evidence. I mean, that's why I'm kind of confused.
Okay.
But yeah. So it's no evidence in that letter.
Just to clarify, so, it actually, from my perspective, got triggered without any specific information, because the staff brought it up prior to the vote, which created a kind of a, well, a cloud, you might say, right, to postpone the vote, which we chose not to do. But as council has indicated, there's a perception issue, right? So they bring up something in a public hearing, they want to postpone a vote, suddenly that would conceivably trigger a perception, okay? There was a concern, right? And in order to clarify that and not impugn us, right, or give access to somebody who might, raise an issue, it was better to basically clarify it the way that council has clarified it, do what she explained it, correct and cure, and then proceed. The transparency of it is what basically, as I felt, was basically for us to do for our own integrity, for the integrity of the group.
Okay.
And that was triggered by when they raised the issue. Otherwise it wouldn't make any difference to me.
Great. So if, I would just like to ask Commissioner Kweskin, will you accept the results of this vote, or?
Of course.
Okay, good. Thanks. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. And Samantha has my contact information. If you ever have a question about the Brown Act or anything else, please reach out.
I have one other question.
Yes.
Who on our group or through staff is our parliamentarian? Who adjudicates the Roseboro Rules of Order? Who's responsible for that?
Typically, commissions and committees will follow the same rules the city council follows. So the mayor and the city attorney are co-parliamentarians of the city council meeting. This commission does not have an attorney who sits on it. So the planning commission has an attorney. So in that case, it's the chair and the deputy city attorney. In this case, I would recommend that you do it the chair and the staff liaison.
But it's not inconceivable to actually assign it to somebody.
No, it's not. In fact, you control your own procedures, and you could,
Assign somebody that responsibility.
the appropriate thing to do would be to ask to set a future agenda item for the consideration of appointing a parliamentarian. But yes, you could do that. You make your own procedures on how you govern your body.
And finally, I don't want to get any more time, we got some other things to deal with. Do we have bylaws that govern, I know we have the municipal code which stipulates what we do and how we do it. But typically there's like bylaws that suggest
There's a city,
selection of a chairman or, selection of committees or whatever.
there's a city policy.
There is a policy someplace, right?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
it's quite lengthy and gets revised often. But it's on the website.
And the name of that document is?
Samantha, do you know the exact name of it?
I don't, but I can forward.
Well,
it
that's
to the
okay.
commission.
There's a policy, that's
It's
okay.
it's an administrative policy for this, like, so it's somewhere in the
City council
200s
meetings,
or 100s, yeah.
Well, thanks again. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and before we move on to motions and discussion, we have one speaker card from Anonymous.
That was awesome. You brought up several items that I wanted to talk about, and that's integrity and the perception that you're giving the city of San Clemente. You probably didn't think it was all that important when you volunteered for this position, but it's crucial. I listened to the meeting, I didn't make it to the meeting, but I've been to, I can't tell you how many meetings I've been to. And I gotta tell you, if you have your Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Director basically hold up a red flag and tell you, hold on, we're recommending that you not do something, unless you know something she doesn't know or he doesn't know, you really should listen to it. Because there's a reason behind it. I have never seen it done, and I've lived in this town since 1996. So that's a recommendation I have for you. Also, I wish that Ms. Wiley could have told you, because I know, Mr. Khan, I listened, you asked several times, can't you tell us what your concern is? And you repeatedly denied that. If she could just said that there was an investigation brought forward about a Brown Act violation, I think you wouldn't have gone through what you did, but now you have a chance to do it over. Obviously, there's some people on the commission that probably did have a conversation that violated the Brown Act. Maybe not even knowingly, now that you got the instructions of what creates that and how innocent it can be. But just for the integrity of this, I would think that maybe you should recuse yourself if you got appointed to a commission based on what you now know is a Brown Act violation. I would hope that you would sincerely consider that. And a parliamentarian, well, I hope you get that on the agenda, because the person in charge of the meeting needs to know the ins and outs of the Rosenberg Rules of Orders and the Brown Act violation. And so maybe you could consider that as well. And thank you for stepping up and doing what you're doing. It's probably a lot more than you thought you were going to get involved in, but you are appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will open the floor for a motion or discussion if the commission wants to entertain recommendations.
So essentially we need to make.
This will be for chair.
And vice chair, right?
Yeah, we'll start with the chair, and then once the chair is selected, the chair then can manage the nomination and selection of the vice chair. You are welcome to nominate yourself. You're welcome to nominate your peers. And we will.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this a nomination or a motion?
It could be a nomination, and then, or it could be a motion. It could be either one, but ultimately it will have to result in a nomination. Oftentimes, if there's several people that are interested in the seat, then we want to hear all of those first, and then somebody could come forward with a motion.
I would like to make a motion to nominate Commissioner Garcia for chair of the committee.
I'd like to make a substitute motion and to make Commissioner Weinstein chair.
I'll second the substitute motion.
Do we have a second on the first motion? Yeah.
We'll
No,
get
no,
rid of
no,
most of
no,
that.
Yeah, we have to vote on the second one first.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other substitute motions to be entertained? Okay, so we will vote on the substitute motion first, which is Commissioner Weinstein for chair. I will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Garcia?
I abstain.
Commissioner Grace?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Khan?
Yes.
Commissioner Queskin?
Yes.
Commissioner McCain?
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. I will turn this over to Commissioner Weinstein for the selection and nomination of vice chair, and then we can rearrange seats if that's the desire.
I would like to nominate Thor
Second.
as vice chair.
A second.
I move we close the nominations.
Okay.
Would you like to take the vote? Do you want to do it by roll call?
That's up to you, you're the chair.
Okay, by roll call, Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Grace,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Khan,
Aye.
Commissioner Queskin,
Aye.
Commissioner McCain,
McCann.
McCann, aye, and Weinstein, aye.
I know that actually.
Let's take it. Let's do it. You're gonna sit here.
Yeah.
Here.
While we move seats, the power's back on for what it's worth.
Oh.
Look right over.
There we go.
Everybody readjusted?
Yes.
All right, let's try a do-over. All right, going to, with our special presentations. So item 3 is the approval of minutes for August 13th, 2024, Beaches, Parks and Rec Commission meeting minutes.
I motion to approve the August 13th, 2024 PPR Commission meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Now we're up to oral communications. Okay. For agenda item 4, but I don't see a name on here.
It's anonymous.
Anonymous.
This may not be within your purview, but I just want to bring it to your attention. I know you're discussing sports contracts tonight, but I believe it just does not pertain to the soccer. And I brought this up to prior commissions. I brought it up to the city manager, and I brought it up to the city staff that there's certain sports organizations, in the one I'm involved to talk about is Elite Soccer, who has guidelines that they must follow in order for you folks to give them access to our public parks. Elite Soccer continues to violate their agreement, and I have, luckily, I now have a meeting set up with Mr. Hall and Ms. Wiley to again address what can be done. But when you're reviewing the sports partnerships agreements, please take into consideration that there are several requirements that they must meet, or they're subject to a series of, I don't know, what do you call it, Ms. Wiley, whatever, violation process. But nobody's enforcing them. So it's crucially important. It's a safety factor at San Gregorio Park. They say they're reserving one field, and they have 4 simultaneous soccer games going. That's 8 teams. The parking lot is overflowing. It's unsafe. We have kids in our streets because we don't have through sidewalks. So just when you're looking at the partnership agreements, please keep in mind the impact that the requirements have on the residents. And hopefully, maybe some year along the way, I'll be able to get the city to make Elite Soccer comply, because it's pretty scary on our street when you can't find any parking for blocks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for all you're doing.
All right, moving on to 5A, the current community activities and updates, recreation activities and events.
Okay, I will give a brief overview of what we've done since our last meeting in August. We hosted our Sunset and Symphony at the Olenanza Beach Club. This is a joint event produced by the Pacific Symphony in conjunction with the County Board of Supervisors Office, who helps fund these activities year to year. And the event actually produced about 300 people. We saw turnout from Mulan provided the food, and Brussels Bistro in town provided the beverages. And it was a tremendous turnout, and I know many of our community members and the residents in that area are looking forward to many more activities on the Oleanza Beach Club lawn. And then in September, we hosted the San Clemente Open Skate Contest. This was the 23rd annual at Ralph's Skate Court. We had a little over about 100 people that attended the event, and it was a great turnout. This is an important contest for our local skaters who maybe don't get to participate in contests on a more regional level or even national level. This gives our local kids the opportunity to compete right in their backyard. And then upcoming events, these are all important community events. The commission's encouraged to attend and experience these events as are members of the public. This week, we've got National Night Out. This is a national event that normally takes place in August, but San Clemente does it in October, a little off the regular schedule of our neighboring cities, and that is really an effort so we can have all of the OCSD resources come out. National Night Out is about public safety awareness and making sure that people feel safe in their neighborhoods, that they know what resources are available to them, and that's everywhere from police, fire, marine safety, to home security systems, to neighborhood watch, the CERT team, all of those groups, park rangers. You'll see a number of them out. It's a completely free event. And this year it's at the Vista Hermosa Sports Park, and it's going to be in conjunction with the carnival that starts on Thursday this week. That moves me right into the Carnival Colossal, which is the Friends of San Clemente Beaches, Parks and Recreation Foundation's biggest fundraiser of the year. This is at Vista Hermosa beginning Thursday. It will run through Sunday. The hours vary day to day, so you are encouraged to check out their website, the Friends Foundation website, for all the information. We are completely sold out of pre-sale tickets, but you can buy tickets on the day of at the carnival, at the regular carnival ticket price. They will also be having live music in a beer garden on Saturdays, and the beer garden is hosted by Los Molinos. And there's local entertainment and band lineup as well for Saturday. Moving right into Pumpkin Splash is October 19th. That's going to be held at the San Clemente Aquatic Center. This event sells out typically. We throw pumpkins in the pool and they float. So you get to swim with a pumpkin, pick a pumpkin out of the poolside patch, and just enjoy it as a fun time in the pool. And then on October 21st, we are celebrating Red Ribbon Week with our annual what we're calling a walk and rally. This is different this year. We're no longer coming down Del Mar. We're actually starting at Linda Lane Park. We've invited all of the schools, all of our local youth organizations to come and represent the importance of maintaining a healthy lifestyle, saying no to drugs, and making good choices in our youth. This is an ask for the community to rally behind our kids to make sure they know how to make good decisions and that they have a community behind them to support them. So the walk and rally will start at Linda Lane Park. We will head south down the beach trail and land just north of the pier at the picnic pavilion, where we'll have a little bit of a pep rally. We'll have the Triton Marching Alliance will be there, cheerleaders, the dance team, all wearing red. And we are very gracious and grateful for the Fisherman's Restaurant, who will be hosting Cones with the Pop, which is a free ice cream cone for all the kids wearing red out of the crab pot at Fisherman's. So just again, a good opportunity for families to come out and show their support of this really important national campaign as well. And that leads right into Monster Dash. That's our 5K event on Saturday, October 26th. The event this year is a different route. We've rerouted because of the closure of the beach trail, but we're excited for this route. For those of you that have been in town long enough, you might remember the Fiesta 5K route that originally ran down El Camino Real and looped through Maxburg. So it's a little bit of a variation of that. We're bringing that back. But it will start at what is really Victoria, or the Red Fox Lounge area on the street on El Camino Real. We'll head north on El Camino Real, and then turn over by Bonita Canyon Park, do a circle through the Los Molinos district area, and then come back up El Camino Real, circle around Maxburg Park, and land back at the community center for a pancake breakfast and awards. There's a costume contest. Again, this is a highly encouraged to do costumes. It's meant to be a fun experience. If you don't want to run and you just want to see the festivities, we are encouraging everybody to line the sidewalks and check out what your neighbors have in store for costumes. For our younger kids, we do a creepy crawl fun run that starts at the community center and just goes up to the top of Del Mar and comes back down. It's just shy of a mile. And again, costumes are encouraged. We have a number of different categories. Sign-ups are going on right now. There's still an early bird rate available. This event is sponsored by a number of local businesses this year. We're really excited to see that. And of course, the Friends Foundation has come in as our largest presenting sponsor as well. Immediately following that, we are doing our second annual Dia de los Muertos event at Maxburg Plaza Park. This event is celebrating the Dia de los Muertos event right in the neighborhood and the community that cherishes this day very much. It's an important cultural event for our residents. And for those of you who are not familiar with the activity of their event, you are certainly encouraged and welcome to come out. You'll see that there's an art contest this year. We have a Catarina contest, and it is all about remembering your loved ones, your ancestors who have passed away. We'll have a live public altar in the park, and everybody's encouraged to either place a picture on the altar the week leading up to it, or you can email pictures of your loved ones who are no longer with us. You can email them to the recreation email account, and we will print them and place them on the altar. And again, it's really an opportunity to celebrate your ancestors, your relatives who are no longer with you, and cherish those memories that you've had with them. We'll have authentic food and drinks and live performances. There'll be lots of fun music. There'll be face painting, and the event is free for the public as well. And then at the end of November, we will be hosting our annual Doggy Dive event at the Ole Hansen Beach Club. This is the one time only, once a year, where we allow dogs in the pool, and it's right before our maintenance closure. So this is literally an event for the dogs, but humans can come. If you have a dog interested that likes to swim, this is the moment for your pup to come out. Do sign up early. It is another very well attended, very popular event. Recreation works with the animal shelter to put this on, and just tons of different activities. There's a pie eating contest for puppies and dogs and all of that. So all the information is on our website. It's a very fun event. If you don't have a dog, you should come and experience it. We do have lifeguards on duty, and they do make rescues of the dogs that happened last year. So we care just as much about our dogs as we do our human swimmers as well. And then I want to make an early plug for 2 December events. We've got Santa's Village by the Sea, which is the big holiday event on December 7th. That's on Saturday, all downtown, Community Center and Del Mar. This is a partnered event with the Downtown Business Association. We expect thousands of people. We usually hit around the 10,000 mark. Trolley service is in full operation. There'll be plenty of e-bike parking. We encourage everybody to take the trolley or do a ride share. Parking can be challenging, but the tree lighting is at 4:45. Santa will be in town and visiting. And of course, we have the Snow Hill, again sponsored by the Friends Foundation. And then rounding out the year, we've got Sunsets with Santa. We have 2 nights Santa on the pier at the very end in front of the holiday tree on display. That is a completely free event. It is come as you are, come when you can, and grab a picture with Santa and the sunset behind you. And that's it for 2024.
That's a lot.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I would just like to congratulate the director and our whole staff. I think you guys are doing a great job.
All right, moving on to new business. A, Recreation Sports Partnership Applications, primary spring season.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair Weinstein. This is a partnership review. You all took a stab at this earlier in the year with our fall season sports, or soccer and football folks. These are the primary season sports, spring season sports, so it's really just baseball and softball. Those are the only two applications we received. They met all of the requirements to be eligible for the Tier 1 level, so the staff recommendation is by policy. As far as I know, none of the organizations have said otherwise. Both of these organizations, as a note, have been partners for a number of years. Many of them predate even any policy. And they are both in good standing with the city, and we look forward to continuing to work with them at the staff level as well.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, what facilities what facilities do these people rent? Vista Bahia, Vista Hermosa, San Gordio, Bonita Canyon? I mean, how many facilities?
So this is the baseball fields. Little League typically uses Vista Bahia, Vista Hermosa, Bonita Canyon occasionally, Forster Ranch, and Liberty Park. Girls softball primarily uses Steed Park for practices during the week, and then they run their games on the weekend at Tierra Grande, Bonita Canyon. They do some activities on Vista Hermosa Field too, or occasionally Forster Ranch as well.
So with the staff recommendation, do we still require a vote?
Yes, you would move the recommendation with a motion and a second and a vote.
Anybody want a motion?
Yeah, I'll move the staff recommendation. I plan on making an amendment for our consideration, but I will move the staff recommendation that we do grant a Tier 1 partnership to the San Clemente Lily and San Clemente Girls Softball with a 3-year agreement.
I don't think you can motion it and then add an amendment once it's approved, or can you add it?
I'll make the amendment and then amend it. I'll make the motion for the staff report, and then we can discuss the amendment. Right?
It might be easier to just talk about the motion all in one movement.
Okay, well then I would move this staff recommendation, but I would condition it with a discussion of the maintenance of the facilities in question, which would include all of the ones that she listed: Steed, Bonita, Vista Bahia, San Gordio, Liberty, et cetera, et cetera. And secondly, an additional consideration or condition would be a policy determining the playability of these facilities. As background information, we have 2 fields that are unplayable right now: the large field at San Gordio and the large field at Vista Hermosa.
Can I ask, what is under the purview of this commission? Is maintenance of field under our purview, or is that?
Well, we're granting, I'm sorry, Madam Chairman.
Are you asking
I'll
the
speak.
staff?
Yes, I'm trying to.
The maintenance of fields, while maintenance is under the Public Works Department, this commission does have purview over understanding the maintenance operations, but maintenance is not within the Parks and Rec Department anymore. I do have updates on those fields though for a later item.
So did you want to make the motion with your amendments now to vote on?
Sure.
Okay.
But I think I should explain. Who maintains these facilities, and do they drag the fields? Who sets up the fields for this play?
The fields are maintained by the Maintenance Services Division through a contract. There's a number of contracts in place for the baseball fields. There's 2 contractors. There's one contractor that does the infields and one contractor that does the outfields.
And who is the person who supervises that work? Is it Public Works?
It's Public Works, yes. Their contracts are under the administration of the Public Works Director and designated as through the maintenance manager, essentially.
And then finally, who determines the playability of a facility? How is that done?
It depends on the circumstance. On a day-to-day basis, there's a full-time maintenance employee who is inspecting all of the parks, and he is also monitoring the implementation of the contracts. And if there is a concern of playability, it's at the discretion of the maintenance division to deem the field unplayable. In circumstances with weather, umpires also have the right to cancel games because of field conditions, as does a league director, again, depending on the organization using the field.
But really, the issue before us tonight is really just to approve their tier level.
No, the contract. It's a 3-year contract.
Well, it's a 3-year contract, but it's just to approve what tier they're at. The field conditions and all that are something.
What do we consider that? I mean, I'm disagreeing, what do we consider that?
So,
Very important from the
so
standpoint of this
what's in
contract.
front of you is nothing to do with maintenance. These groups don't have anything to do with the maintenance of the fields. If you want to talk about maintenance, you could choose to agendize that for another meeting, if the questions and answers haven't covered it for you. But these groups have nothing to do with the maintenance of fields.
So they maintain no field.
They maintain no
So
fields.
it's truly just a group.
Mhm.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm going to withdraw that motion, by the way, if there's any confusion.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve, based on staff recommendations, the city council grant Tier 1 partnership status to St. Clemente Little League and then St. Clemente Girls Softball with a 3-year agreement.
I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Moving on to 7B, the review of Talega Playground and Forester Ranch Park Playground, the survey results, and the request for direction on the design and playground surfacing options.
Okay, so as part of the work plan for the commission this year, there's 2 capital improvement projects that are funded through the Facility Reserve Replacement Fund. One of those playgrounds is Talega Park and the other is Forester Ranch Park. As part of our normal process, when we talk about replacing playgrounds, staff always seek public input as the first step towards coming up with a conceptual design. There's a couple of tentacles to this. So before you is there's a ton of survey results. We took 2 surveys, one specific to Talega, one specific to Forester Ranch. They yielded pretty similar results for the most part. And so I hope that you've all had the opportunity to digest that. There's a lot of different play options. There's swings, there's ramp and platform, there's challenging play, there's ropes courses. There's a lot of things that you can do at a playground. And all of that is explained within the survey, and again, you can see the survey results pretty clearly. So staff are looking for 2 things tonight. Number 1, is there specific direction for either of the park sites based on the survey results? And number 2, again, using the survey results, what kind of surfacing is recommended? And playground surfacing can come in the form of a number of different materials. But for some history and edification for the commission, most people are familiar with what's called pour-in-place surfacing or rubberized surfacing. Rubberized surfacing is what you see at Courtney's Sandcastle Playground. It's what is currently at Talega Park and also Forester Ranch. You see typically a combination of pour-in-place and sand. That is an old type of playground building. Sand and rubberized surfacing actually don't get along. Sand quickly deteriorates that rubberized surfacing material, leaving it patchy and filled with holes, which then poses a safety concern. So modern playground design typically steers away from sand and pour-in-place and recommends one or the other. Sand is not deemed as ADA accessible, so we no longer put sand in any playground exclusively. You might occasionally see an area where there's sand play, but that's not the primary surfacing throughout the playground. So that's the sand bucket, if you will. The pour-in-place, again, it provides fun colors. It's typically some kind of tire crumb that is pressed and heated, and you can do all kinds of designs upon it. It is fully ADA accessible. Wheelchairs can move easily around within it. And I know that that's often the preferred surface because it's easier just in general to traverse, whether you're a toddler crawling or you're somebody in a wheelchair or may have difficulty walking and getting through a playground. The other option is engineered wood fiber, or what some folks call wood chips. Engineered wood fiber is exactly that. It is specialized wood chips that they're sanded down. They don't splinter. They're intended to be playground safe. You see this a lot in schools as they start to replace playgrounds. Engineered wood fiber is cheaper. It is more affordable, and it is considered ADA compliant. I know that there are many folks who would argue that, but based on national playground safety standards, EWF does comply with ADA requirements. And then there are a couple other options. There's rubber mulch. So again, instead of wood chips, you see what is really a rubber chip instead. So there's less splintering. It's a little softer in general. You can also, instead of rubberized surfacing, you can get compressed rubber mulch, which is a larger, essentially you can imagine it's mulch that's kind of pressed down in a smooth surface. And a newer surfacing for playgrounds is actually AstroTurf or artificial turf, similar to what you see on fields. That is also compliant. All of those have varying costs, as you can imagine. I know that, so direction previously from the city council when they looked at the playground replacement schedule, the council in 2017 opted to spend more money and resources on the playability of a playground. So let's make our play structures fun, fantastic, attractive to kids where they can go and they can play for hours upon hours. And in doing so, the return would be, or the takeaway would be, we're going to have to lessen the quality of the surfacing. So instead of pour and play surfacing and rubber surfacing, let's go with the engineered wood fiber because it's going to be more affordable in the long run. Based on our last playground replacement at San Gorgonio Park and Ski Park as well, and Verde Park in Miracosta, we learned that there were a couple folks who were upset with the engineered wood fiber. They felt like they weren't able to take their younger toddlers on the wood chips, and that it was not their ideal experience. So through that conversation, council directed to pull out the wood chips that were put in at San Gorgonio just about a year ago, and now staff are working to put in the rubber surfacing at San Gorgonio. But part of that conversation now has spurred a larger discussion of what are we doing through the playground system if that's the case. And I know this is a lot of information, but all of this boils back to what our budget is. So I'll give Talega Park, for example. We have a budget of $300,000 for Talega Park. Talega Park is a really cool space. There's a couple different elevations at that playground. And in order to do rubberized surfacing at that playground, the cost estimate came in at just about $190,000. That's 50% of the playground budget. So you're going to be left with a pretty small playground, but rubberized surfacing to go upon, versus you could put in the wood chips. You're going to save money at the front end, and then you're going to be able to invest more money in the play structures. You're going to run into the same issue with Forster Ranch. Forster Ranch is $500,000, but there's actually 2 play structures in that area. There's the Forster Ranch Upper Playground, which is the larger playground adjacent to the soccer field. And then if you're not familiar with Forster Ranch, off of Cerro Matoso, there's a baseball field, and there's a smaller playground down there. So that $500,000 is to cover both of those playground sites. So based on all of that, staff is seeking direction from the commission on the preference of both design, swings, no swings, how many slides, what does that look like? Do you want challenging play? Do you want more inclusive play? And then also what is the preferred surfacing? And all of this would then be presented to the city council for final feedback. The one other piece I want to mention, because while we're looking at costs today, we have a expansive park system, and parks are expensive to maintain. So when we look at playgrounds, engineered wood fiber is cheaper at the front end, it's cheaper in the long run as well. There is an occasional need to top off the playgrounds that have the wood chips in it. All of the wood chips, maintenance and all of that is included in our maintenance contracts. So they go in and they'll do it. You'll see after a rainy season that you might see some puddling or pooling. The maintenance staff is very quick to come out, rake it down, throw a top coat on, and it's completely usable again. The pour in place, you don't have to do anything to it for about 7 or 8 years. And then you're going to start to see cracking based on the sun, or just based on, if you notice where kids are swinging, you're going to see their feet are making marks, or where the slide lands. You're going to see certain areas that start to have a lot of more wear and tear. And then over time, that becomes an unsafe feature of the playground, and we have to close that area and then replace it. And unfortunately, pour in place has to be done. You either rip all of it out or you patch it. So if you've been to Courtney Sandcastle lately, we actually were just able to go in and do a pretty big patch job, but you'll see there's some areas where the blue doesn't match the other blue. That's a patch job, and you can never really get the same consistency in a patch job as you will from the original product. Again, from the staff perspective, there is a concern of ongoing maintenance costs and upfront costs. That's always the concern. And if you want to do the rubberized surfacing, then we're going to have to sacrifice something else on the other end. Both of these playgrounds are absolutely in need of replacement. If they don't get replaced this year, we're looking to close portions of the playground, which is not what we want to do. But based on the safety requirements and the regular inspections, that's at the state we're in. So they're needed, and it's hard to say, let's punt one and put the funding towards the other. I don't think that we can afford to do that at this point in time. So that was a lot of information. I'm happy to take any questions if you guys have any.
I have a question, because going through both the survey results, shade was the biggest thing. I imagine that isn't a huge cost because it's essentially a piece of canvas, right? But I thought it was interesting, someone brought up putting a splash pad at Forster Ranch, because right now the only one we have is at Vista Hermosa. Is that a possibility? And what would that look like? Has that been looked into before?
That is a really cool idea. It's never been looked into.
Okay.
It is possible, but not with this budget.
Okay.
A splash pad does, obviously it requires water,
Right.
and these playgrounds don't have water systems underneath. The splash pads that people are most familiar with, and the pool is not this. A splash pad is a sump pump feature, so it's just constantly recirculated water.
Right.
And it's going to require some undergrounding and creating that vault and where that pump goes. So probably not a possibility within this budget, but certainly in the future.
Pocket.
Yeah.
And then my question is too, when it comes to both, so you can have wood chips in some areas, so wood chips where the bigger kids play, because it sounds like toddlers and toddler parents have the biggest concern about the wood chips. And then if there is, like in Forster Ranch, there is like the little kid area or a smaller toddler section, have that be the, what did you call it, corn plate?
Or it's rubber surfacing.
The rubber surfacing. Is that a possibility too? Because also, like, I'm thinking about the Talladega Park, it would be really cool to have more features there. But you can put wood chips over the swings, and especially the taller swings, stuff
Yes.
like that.
That is possible. That's what we would kind of consider a hybrid method.
Yes.
Where sand and rubber don't go, wood chips and rubber are okay. that you're not getting, the sand is like sandpaper, it's gonna rub anything down over time, the wood chips don't have the same effect. So you could go that route. To your point, most of our playgrounds all have a 2 to 5 year set on them that's intended for the 2 to 5 year old, and then there's the 5 to 12-year-old set, that kind of big toy, if you will.
And if we could, is it possible, and when we're talking about the renderings and whatnot, to have that hard surfacing or that rubberized surfacing under the 2 to 5-year-old set, so that if kids are crawling, if kids are learning to walk, they're not picking it up, putting it in their mouth, and then have the wood chips for the older kids?
Yes, all of that's possible. That is really the cool functionality of the rubber surfacing, is you can design it and mold it however you want. You can do a winding path, you can do stepping stones with wood chips all around, you can do whatever you want with the pouring place.
It's just an expense issue, I believe.
Right, but if we're doing more of a hybrid, then that's less of a cost.
Yes, it potentially could be, yes.
Potentially could be, that would be something that I would suggest exploring, or, we can talk about as commission, because I definitely think, again, the biggest thing was shade, and then having more benches and sitting areas around the parks, which I completely understand, especially with the way that they're both set up. But I saw the survey results that had the biggest anti-wood chip attitude was the Forster Ranch community, but it seemed like it was more my toddler, I can't put my toddler in wood chips, I don't want my toddler in wood chips, which I completely understand. The kids will eat it, but if they're just at the little kid area, then the wood chips aren't there, and it's not an issue, and then it isn't as big of a cost as if we were doing rubberized.
It also seemed that in that survey, they were interested in a sand play area as well, which might help offset some of the costs, and we need to consider where the sand was and how it would affect the rubberized surface as well.
Yeah.
If we did the rubberized surface at this Lego Park and created some sort of an ADA, I know that the wood chips are ADA compliant technically, but if we made sure that the rubberized surface, specifically at Talega, made sure that children could access all areas and then filled in the rest with the wood chips, it might help with some of the accessibility issues as well.
Certainly, and that's that hybrid model that Commissioner Garcia is saying, totally doable, and it will save on costs to some extent.
I have a question about the cost related to San Gregorio. There was a budget allocated for that park. The park was completed, and now $150,000 is needed.
Yes.
So that is coming from somewhere.
It is. It's been previously funded. It was funded in the last fiscal year through the unassigned fund balance. But that park was just around $700,000, including the wood chips. A portion of that was funded through Prop 68 funds, which is why we were able to do a little bit more at San Gregorio.
I'm not exactly sure how to make a motion or how to vote.
I think it might be helpful, and the commission can do whatever you want, but I think if you can break it down by park and either make a motion on, we want, as to see a hybrid, maybe make a motion on the surfacing, and then if you want to throw out pieces that are important, you can choose to, we want to make a motion on shade, that's important, we want to make a motion on the sand area, swings are important, whatever it
So
is.
individual motions
You
per
can
park.
totally do that, yes.
I would like to make a motion to see a hybrid surfacing for both parks and what the cost would look like for that.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Oh, discussion.
Sorry, can we clarify which is the hybrid? We're talking rubberized and...
Rubberized and the wood chips, yeah, the two that
Okay.
were in the report.
Yes, perfect.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Could we also get a quote to see what it would look like, cost to have one park rubberized for smaller children and one park wood chips with playground features that are more suitable for bigger kids? What do you think of that?
So are you saying like the Talega Park is just for the little kids and the Forest Ranch Park is for the big
Right.
kids? I wouldn't like that, because then I would have to go to 2 separate parks for my kids. As a mom, speaking as a mom, as a citizen here, I would rather see, like for instance, in Lewis Ray, you've got the little section for the little kids and then the big section for the big kids. It's all wood chips right now, not a problem, but it would be something along the lines of if that 2 to 5 toddler area just had like, almost like a, just a little circle where it was the rubberized surface. Because I do think that the majority of the pushback with the wood chips is with toddlers. I completely understand, you don't want your toddlers crawling in that, eating it, etc. So I think that would appease some of the no wood chip things. So I wouldn't want to have just one age-specific park. I would want the park to be for all the ages, just the area is separate.
Sure,
Yeah.
you're the one with Bill right now.
I'm going to the parks all the time.
Well, and the demographics, if you look at the demographic breakdown for both parks, the largest groups of kids that come there are 2 to 5 and 6 to 12 as well. So both parks are pretty equally represented in the age group of the children. So I do think for that reason, we do need to cater toward both older kids and younger kids as well. But I like the creative thought process around.
I also think we should be careful. I mean, it's great we have this data, but the participation rates for various demographics seems uneven. So I think if we're going to make decisions based on these surveys, we should be careful because it doesn't seem representative of the actual.
But it's a start.
It's a
definitely a
start,
start.
and once we get the official renderings, we'll try and get as many people to come in.
Yeah. They tend to come out once you get it rolling.
Mhm.
Hi, Madam Chairman. What are the particulars of the $800,000 budget? What does that address in terms of the scope of work in the park?
That's all in. That's your equipment, your installation, your labor at prevailing wage, removal of existing playground, everything.
Does it make any difference what the surface is? Is one more expensive than the other?
Yes, the rubber surfacing is more expensive than the wood chips.
That would still be within the budget?
Yes,
Okay.
But if you spend more on the
Right.
surface, you spend less on the equipment.
So you
So
can
that's
have,
why
Okay.
that's why we went with the hybrid to kind of,
Mhm.
because you can have
But
it
we
all.
but our budget
rubberized.
is covered. We're not going to exceed our budget with anything we've talked about, right?
no, that's
An
not that I
adequate
know
budget.
of.
It's an adequate budget.
Yeah, I can tell you that I do have an initial cost for Tolega Park at all rubber surfacing and labor, everything, all in. My initial estimate is $800,000.
Just for that park.
Just for that park,
That is a
so.
little above
That's-
budget.
Exactly, so that's why I'm coming to the commission. I was hoping to bring concept designs, but I'm here tonight to get a better feel on what's really important. Can we narrow it down to get within our budget?
One other thing, so I would also too, again, shade and seating was important in both of these, and also being to both parks, having seating around, just edges around instead of in one area. I would like to make a motion to prioritize both shade and like 360-degree seating or all over seating in the plans for these parks.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those were the 2 highest voted
Yeah.
points.
Yeah.
Yep, for both of them.
I have a question again, Kristen. I'm sorry to dwell on this budget issue, but if your preliminary rough order of magnitude is $800,000 for one park, how do we compromise the scope of work to get 2 parks for $800,000?
That was an initial estimate. I have to narrow them down. That was like all the bells and whistles, all of the fancy instruments and all of the add-ons, and there's a lot of extra play equipment that would have to be scaled back and out.
Like 50% worth, probably? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any more questions? All right, moving on to 7C, the establishment of ad hoc subcommittees and appointments.
Okay, so again, this is based on the commission's work plan that was approved by the council. There's a couple of subcommittees that need to be established. The ad hoc subcommittee at first would be the aquatics partnership policy. This came up within your work plan at the committee and at the council level, looking to redesign and restructure the aquatics partnership policy specific for the pools. We did this exercise with our field sports a couple of years ago. This would be focused on aquatics. So as a precursor, subcommittees can be no more than 3 members of the commission. They don't have to be 3 members. It could be 1 or 2 or 3. And an ad hoc subcommittee is a subcommittee that has a very specific purpose, and when their purpose is done, the committee goes away. So certainly the aquatics policy one would be an ad hoc. The special events one, that doesn't need to be ad hoc, that could be ongoing, and as could the funding and sponsorship. So I will leave it up to you all how you want to.
Can I go committee by committee and see who would be interested in the aquatics partnership?
Certainly.
Okay. We have 1 committee member. Is there anyone else that would like to be in the aquatics partnership?
And this would be redefining essentially the different tiers.
Yes, so our aquatics partnership right now is structured as senior and junior.
Okay.
And which is dramatically different from our field ones.
Yeah.
And I know similar to what our field sports have been experiencing, some of our aquatics groups are also experiencing challenges with numbers and meeting residency.
Yeah.
So I think there's a want to relook at minimum requirements.
So I was on the field one last year because that's my expertise is 20 years in that. I don't have expertise in the aquatic side, so I'm a little more hesitant to volunteer on that.
And subcommittees, so you know, they're not like this. They don't require an agenda.
Right.
They're usually, you're gonna work with staff and meet as often as needed. It could be done in 2 hours. It could take several meetings.
Madam Chairman, could we combine this work letter number 6 with the work letter fee schedule? Aren't they the same thing?
They are different.
What's the difference?
The fee study is comprehensive of all department fees. This is a specific policy that we're looking at. It will look at discounts, but it is aside from the fee study.
Right now, can we establish the committees first? All right, anybody else would like to work on the aquatics?
I would like to be on that one.
Great.
Yeah, I saw them when they came and spoke it.
Great.
That's all.
So that's 2 for now, is that good? Very good.
That works.
Moving on to special event support. Would anybody like to be on special events?
I want to be on special.
Okay, Sherry, anybody want to help Sherry?
Me.
And Shauna? Okay. And the last one for funding and sponsorships.
I would like to be on that one.
I as well.
All right? Anybody else? We're good. We have 2, 2, and 2?
That works.
Okay.
Can we make a motion? Well, actually, I guess that's up to the commission, because you said it's ad hoc right now, but we can make it a reoccurring.
Yep.
Yeah. We usually like to relook at subcommittees at the start of every fiscal year.
Okay.
By appointment, kind of.
Yeah.
Do we want to make that a reoccurring? No? Okay. I was thinking at least having a sponsorship.
Yeah. Can we move on to item number 8, communications, beaches, parks, recreation, and directors report?
Okay, I have a couple of updates. I think it's important to highlight some of the work that has happened from a maintenance perspective. When you have over 24 parks and fields and such, there's a lot of work that happens on a regular basis that many members of the public and even the commission's not aware of. They just happen as routine items. So since August of 2024 or thereabouts, the Maintenance Service Division has renovated the Talega Field number 1 infield. That's the baseball field. They've also fully renovated the large field at San Bernardino Field 1 infield. That included raising the level of the dirt, which was a big concern of both Little League and some other user groups. So they dumped a whole bunch of dirt onto the field, and now it's even and the lips have been removed. They installed windscreens at Steed Park pickleball courts, and to include a shade structure or shade awning over the middle of the courts at Steed Park. The tennis court at San Luis Rey, court number 4, was resurfaced. The wrought iron fence at Leslie Park was replaced. The drinking fountain at Rancho San Clemente Park was replaced. And they repaired a potable water leak at Liberty Park that was damaging the field as well. They also, at Steed Park, painted the restrooms, re-landscaped the rotunda area, and repaired the infield lips as well, similar to what they did at Steed, or at San Gorgonio. They also, at Talega Park, repaired the infields. San Gorgonio, they converted the pickleball back to tennis court, that's on court 1, and fencing was added. That was prior to August. At Jim Johnson, the fencing was replaced. There was tubular fencing surrounding the entire park, and it was bent and in pretty bad condition. That was fully replaced. And also, you'll notice if you've gone to Jim Johnson, there used to be tile murals on the bathroom walls. Those were installed when the developer built the park. It was very poorly installed, and the workmanship, craftsmanship was done horribly, and the tiles actually started to fall off. So the whole mural has been removed at this point. There was no budget to replace the tile murals, so staff, along with the Arts and Culture Committee, will most likely look to figure out a new mural for those 2 inset spaces. But it is not a super important project at this point, so it's not a priority. But it is on our radar. The North Beach concession stand renovation was also completed. That renovation happened through the North Beach placemaking plan. That old concession building is now a public safety hub. There's some computers, some cubicle space for both OCSD, Marine Safety, and the park rangers to utilize from that side of town. The pier railings were painted. Our maintenance staff went out early in the morning over several days and painted the railings. And all of the beach restrooms and shade structures will be painted in the next month or 2 as well. So you can expect to see those changes coming out. Hang on, there's more. See, they're busy, I told you.
Oh, that's good.
They also repaired the North Beach Trail close to the landslide area. That was a very big undertaking when OCTA and Metrolink came in to repair the tracks. All of the beach trail landscape was completely ripped out. And that was a heavy lift for maintenance to get that repaired, and they successfully did that. I also want to note that the Maintenance Services Division was very instrumental in the recent tribute to the soldiers that were killed in the line of duty in Afghanistan. And you saw that display on the pier. I would hope it was a very important moment for this community to support our troops, and maintenance was out there installing the plaques, and they did a really great job doing that. And that's it from the maintenance side. I don't have any other updates from the department. You know what our events are, and we're gearing up to head into the winter season with a new magazine coming out at the beginning of November as well, so look forward to that also.
Awesome. And what about item 2?
So, we, at our next meeting, need to figure out a new meeting date. The council kind of changed around its schedule, which happened to fall on our regular second Tuesday. So I'm looking for the commission to agree on a date that we can adjourn to and make that our next regular meeting. There is a staff recommendation in there, and I want to say it's the
December
17th.
17th.
Yeah. So if that works for everybody, you can move the staff recommendation and item 8A2 or II, and then we will adjourn to that date as well.
Is that something I need to call a motion for, or? All right. Can I ask for the motion that the next scheduled meeting be for December 17th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at City Hall Council Chambers?
I motion.
Okay. I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
I have a question about maintenance.
Yes.
We've got this accessibility study that was done 10 years ago. What is the status of complying with those recommendations from the maintenance perspective?
So depending on what item is being addressed, that report is referred to through CIP projects as they're kicked off or initiated. And then if there's other projects that can be done or are marked off as completed through just a regular operating budget, it will be addressed as well.
But do they have a look ahead? I mean, do they have a look ahead in terms of compliance? I mean, it's been around for 10 years, so I'm imagining.
Yeah,
How do they do
I
this?
can't speak for certain. I don't oversee maintenance. I know that it's incorporated from the engineering side through the CIP. And then anytime there is a maintenance project that's done on an area, they always consider ADA as part of that improvement.
Do they ever report on that accessibility report that was prepared? Do they ever address that?
Who would they be reporting to?
Us.
No, this commission doesn't hear about that report because it's not in your purview,
So accessibility in our facilities is not within our purview.
not specifically.
Whose purview is it within?
The ADA lives within the building officials' responsibilities.
Could we go back to our agenda items and perhaps you can bring it up for a proposed agenda item in
Sure.
future? All right, going to number 9A, do we have any subcommittee reports? I don't think so because we don't have any current subcommittees. All right, going to 9B, I know there's items from the commissioner from the Pure Pride Foundation.
Yes, there is. So October is their big fundraising month, so there's lots of events going on. I attended the dinner at the Fisherman's with the wine pairing. Amelia was there. It was pretty much sold out. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 tickets left. So it was a very well attended event and it was fun. One of the big raffle prizes that went for a high dollar amount was the piece of wood from the pier. Don't ask us how it was obtained, but it was a piece of wood from the pier and said San Clemente, so that was a good auction item, so that was fun. Coming up last weekend on Saturday was the pier jump, and I was not able to attend that because it was homecoming, so I had a conflict, but I should be able to get the amount after this month of how much was raised for the foundation. They're trying to, the entrance of the pier is their main focus for their next project. We do have the Light the Future of the Pier recognition party at Ole Hansen Beach Club coming up, which will be a nice event, as well as they did win an award that's going to be presented to them on October 24th in Garden Grove. So I don't know if I'll make that or not, but yeah. It's so far so good, busy month, met a lot of good people on the committee and excited to see how this month went.
Wonderful organization. My only comment is there was no city council present at the dinner. In years past, we've usually had at least 1 or even 2. So it was only myself and Sherry, but it is what it is.
What is the piece of wood auction for?
I think it went for $3,000.
Yeah.
Which is
Did
pretty
we
good.
sell some of those to pay for our flooring?
Yeah, right? Maybe we could pick up the floor
That's
from
part
the park.
of the funding and sponsorship committee.
Okay.
You guys can think up a silent auction item.
Yeah, that's great.
Anything else from Pure Pride?
No, hopefully next meeting I'll have some information on how much we raised for the.
Okay.
So,
Last item, any proposed agenda items for the future?
I have some. There was an efficiency report that was prepared, again, about 10 years ago, which actually indicated that Parks and Recreation was to get a regular report from Public Works. What this efficiency report did is it took all the beaches, parks, and recreation responsibilities and gave them to Public Works. So as we've had this conversation this evening, I get the impression that we are subject to the whim of the Public Works Department, even though the community, I think, looks to us for the maintenance, the capital improvements, and so forth and so on. So I would like just to have this efficiency report presented to the commission and just have us take a look at it, review it, and see what could be done.
Was that back when maintenance was removed from
Mm-hmm.
Beach Parks and Rec and put under Public Works?
Mm-hmm.
So you're wanting to see it?
Well, I don't think it's
Yes.
worked. I mean, to be very frank about it, Public Works really cares about storm drain, sewers, and curb and gutter. And I think we're kind of the maintenance of the parks are on a needed basis, but I don't think they're a priority. And the other problem is there a Public Works Commission? I mean, who are these people responsible to?
But I believe it was city council that made the move, so,
City manager.
okay, the city manager made the move.
Right, I consider it maybe to be potentially slightly political, but that's just speculation on my part. Anyway, so I would like to agendize that efficiency report just for the commission's review, because it has everything to do with our capital improvement and our facilities.
Is that something we vote on?
So to get something on the agenda, this would require, you need 3 votes to have it on the agenda, 4 to include a staff report.
Okay, well, I would so move that we have this efficiency report, which was prepared at a cost of about $70,000 several years ago, and that we review the efficacy of this whole operation.
I'll second that.
And you want to do a roll call vote, or would you like to just say yes or
I
no?
think there was a roll call.
Roll call.
Yeah, sure.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
You get 3.
Okay, so that will put it on the agenda, and then the commission can go from there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean we get access to the report, we can read it and see how it
Mm-hmm.
performs?
I have a copy.
Okay.
It's
But you're asking for someone to come and basically report over the last 10 years how effective it's been. So we need to,
So just read the report. I think the report is self-evident. In other words, it suggests a regular report from Public Works to the Director of Community Services. I think it happened for a month, maybe 2 months. There was no report, there was no responsibility, there was no accountability.
So what'll be included on the agenda is the findings from the consultant at the time the study was completed, and that will be the extent of it.
What about the implementation of the report?
well, but that's not Samantha. That's,
Yeah.
Who is it?
Dave.
Public Works?
yeah, he's in charge of Public Works. That's a totally different department.
Yeah. But
So-
they're responsible for the maintenance of the facilities that we review.
You will see the efficiency report as it was presented at the time, and if the commission from there wants to ask additional questions or ask more things of Public Works, that would be the appropriate time to do it.
Will Public Works then come and make a presentation?
I can speak to
Okay.
the director. But no, you're not getting a staff presentation. You get 3 votes. You get just the consultant findings.
And then what about our skateboard facility? Do we agendize that for discussion?
That's on the work plan, and there is no update on it. It's a CIP.
Should we agendize it for an update?
You can, I don't know what you would be looking to have an update on.
It's in the work plan though, yeah?
Yeah, but being in the work plan doesn't mean much. They got $200,000 in the budget. I'd like to see what we only meet once every 2
It
months.
requires an RFP, and the RFP has not been released yet.
So could we agendize it to get a status on the RFP?
I can tell you it's not been released yet.
Hmm.
So the commission's aware, there is a laundry list of CIP projects that come out every year, and they are prioritized based on whatever council has put forward as the most important. This is an important project, but there's a few projects ahead of it.
Right, but they did budget $200,000.
Yes.
And finally, what's the story with our pump track? That it's part of our master plan, and apparently there's some money floating out there that may or may not, private money.
Pump track or what?
Steve Park. It's on the master plan.
As part of the skate park?
No, it's separate.
Staff
Separate
are
facility.
working with a couple of organizations who are working towards funding it. I don't know that I would want to discuss anything further at this time.
Okay, if there's no more items?
All right, I would like to move to adjourn to the regular meeting of the BP&R Commission to Tuesday, December 17th, 2024, at 6 p.m. at City Hall Council Chambers, located at 910 Calle Negocia, San Clemente, 92673.
I'll second.
Thank you. Well done, everybody. See you in December.